Hello, and a massive thank you for joining us, listener. How are you? You're listening to My Surrogacy Journey, the podcast, and me and my husband will be taking you on a journey of education and surrogacy storytelling. I'm Michael. I'm a father of two gorgeous children through UK surrogacy, and I'm one of your hosts.
And I'm Wes, married to Michael. We're the founders of My Surrogacy Journey. Hello. It's wonderful to have you back. Thank you for downloading us again. Michael, we've also got ourselves a podcast sponsor too. Manchester Fertility is a centre of excellence for surrogacy in the Midlands and the north of England. A leading fertility clinic with over 35 years of experience building families for people within the LGBTQ community. With an established heritage and excellent success rates, they provide many fertility treatments and pathways for same-sex couples and single, trans, non-binary people and heterosexual couples from across the UK.
Manchester Fertility are well known for their fantastic team of experts who provide the best patient care.
So on this episode, we're going to go into detail about MRKH, whether there are different types, the options available for patients, and the very personal story of Joanne and how her and her husband Matt built their family with MRKH.
And I absolutely and genuinely cannot wait for this chat. It's a really important discussion, and it was one of those conversations that Wes and myself had at the end of season 1 when someone approached us to do a podcast episode on this particular topic, and I'm really thrilled and pleased to have Joanne with us and Dr. Ali Al Chami from CRGH. Welcome, both of you.
And we should credit Hayley for that.
We should.
Acknowledgement of let's do an MRKH episode, because there's so much need out there for it, and there's a lot of misunderstanding about MRKH. And I think hopefully if the listener goes away better informed about MRKH and the options available to them both personally and clinically, then I think we've done a good job. We have. So without further ado, let's dive right in. Joanne, I'm going to come to you first.
Okay.
Hello. How are you?
Yeah, I'm good, thank you.
First question, because we've got to ask, how is the gorgeous little one?
Oh, she's a dream. She's an absolute dream. Yeah.
You've done really well. Like, you've got a really good textbook baby.
Oh yeah, she's caused us no drama so far. She sleeps, she eats. She's been a little dream child, so no complaints.
Very lucky.
And let's also just acknowledge that little Olivia was baby number one for MSJ, so she's always going to have a really special place at MSJ.
Yeah. So she was born in April 2022, and I'm just thrilled to have you here today. So tell us a little bit about you.
So yeah, I'm Joanne. I had a little girl in April 22, like you said. So I was born with MRKH, and it's something that I found out about extremely young. I was around 5 when I found out that I had MRKH, which is extremely unusual because most girls actually find out when they're sort of around 15, 16, whereas I actually found out very young, and it's something that was introduced into my life extremely early. I actually don't ever remember being told that I had MRKH. It's just something that was always introduced, that, you know, I was never told I wasn't going to be a mum. I was always just told I was going to have a baby in a very special way. So, yeah, it's something that I've lived with, and that, you know, I knew that surrogacy was going to be something that we was going to do very early on. So yeah, when I met my husband at 16 years old, I told him.
I didn't know you've been together since then.
Yeah, we met very young. We met at school. So yeah, I let him know early, and he was always very on board with the whole thing, super supportive of it. So yeah, we always knew that it's something we would start very early, and being parents for us was something that we was desperate for. So yeah, we started really early, and here we are.
Look at you. Big shout out to Matt, by the way. And Doctor, tell us a little bit about you, please.
So I'm Ali Al Chami, consultant at CRGH. I'm a fertility consultant, and my basic training was in the medical school, followed by obstetrics and gynecology training as well. I have a special interest in surrogacy and egg donation, and I lead also the surrogacy team at CRGH.
Amazing. Thank you.
And also we should acknowledge that Dr. Ali was the doctor with our little son Duke. So
he was indeed.
We'll be forever indebted
Lots
to Dr.
of
Ali.
Gratitude to you. The fact that he's never slept. I can't really complain at you for that.
I can't blame you for that. Or can we? Is it Dr.
Is it? I don't know. Let's see. Thank you, everybody. So let's just set the scene. For those of you, for our lovely listener, you might be listening to this and you might discovered you've recently been diagnosed with MRKH, or you might be listening to this episode for a relative and you want to signpost it. Whatever the reason is, I hope you find this useful. From a trigger perspective, we are going to be talking about reproductive support and surrogacy, possible pregnancy and loss. So, doctor, let's set that scene. What is MRKH?
MRKH is a condition where the female is born with an absent cervix, which is the neck of the womb, and an absent or undeveloped uterus. Otherwise, the ovaries are there and the hormone cycle is normal, and the secondary sexual characteristics like the pubic hair, the breasts are normal and well developed, and it has the MRKH has different types as well.
How common is it?
It's thought to be, I mean, there's sort of agreement, it's about 1 in 5,000. Other studies suggest it might be 1 in 20,000. But this is based mainly on a kind of Western population. We don't have enough information about other populations or other ethnicities. But certainly we are seeing more and more numbers recently because there's more awareness, and the social media is helping in this as well to speak more about it.
Those are like really crazy stats, aren't they, in terms of those numbers? Joanne, I don't know if you mind me saying this, but your sister also has MRKH. So 2 people in one family.
In the same
stats
household.
About that is, I mean, you just talked about...
It is, yeah. It's thought to be multifactorial, but certainly recently with the genome sequencing, we believe there is a genetic predisposition. Due to the nature of the condition and the fact that the absent uterus hinders transmission, that's why the genetic factor might be underestimated, but certainly we see familial clustering. So, and that's why in families one might consider to investigate if needed early to be aware, although it's still very low incidence.
But that's exactly what happened with your sister, wasn't it? You were diagnosed and then they scanned your sisters as part of the natural process to check.
Yeah, it was just completely by chance that they happened to scan her and said, actually, this is extremely rare, but 2 of you have both got the same condition.
How long have we known that MRKH has existed for?
So MRKH actually is for Meyer, Rokitansky, Gusterhauser, who are the anatomists who described this condition from different countries. So we've known about it more than 130 years now. However, there is a report of about 500 years ago when an anatomist also described the condition, but wasn't very detailed. So it has been there for a long time. Certainly with imaging starting in the 80s, 90s, and advanced imaging, we are diagnosing this earlier now and knowing more about it. It's usually diagnosed mainly in primary care, but referred to tertiary centers where people will have more awareness and understanding of the condition.
And are you seeing more patients now as a consultant in reproductive medicine? Are you definitely seeing more awareness and more numbers coming through for people wanting surrogacy?
Certainly, and also I'm seeing patients coming sometimes with their parents early because they want to consider egg freezing, just like any other female who's keen to preserve her fertility, because the surrogacy journey sometimes might take time or to meet the right partner. So preserving their eggs. And here also the important factor is to be in a clinic that would consider surrogacy, to do the right screening, even the consent forms. So all this awareness is helping others to try to prepare in advance and to help them in their journey in the future.
And Joanne, you're nodding there when Dr. Ali's talking. Is that what you remember from your journey? Is that how your fertility preservation journey began?
Yeah, definitely. So obviously we're aware that we don't have a uterus and we are going to need surrogacy, but at no point during my teenage years did any doctor ever do me a blood test to tell me about my fertility levels, about my follicle stimulating hormones, all these crazy things that you then hear about once you start this journey. So I was always concerned, I remember in my early 20s, that I wanted to freeze my eggs and I wasn't ready for a family just yet, but I was so nervous that that side of my fertility was also impaired, that my mum and me had already researched our clinic, knew where we was going to go, And yeah, we were just keen to start our egg retrieval super early because I was so nervous that that side of my fertility was also impaired, but actually, thank God, I was fine. Like, my levels were fine.
I think it's about taking that proactive approach, and I think when you're given that news that you do have this condition, then you kind of start to think about how can I then safeguard pragmatically. And I think, you know, when we talk about heterosexual women who are going through a fertility journey, often when they approach surrogacy, they are at a stage where that is new to them, and it's a new way that they move forward, and they're not always mentally prepared for that. Whereas I think women who have got MRKH and have known from a young age, they're able to process that, they're able to understand what that means to them from a fertility point of view, and they're able to plan. And I mean, I don't mean under no illusions that that takes time to process, and there's emotions involved, and you've got to, you know, try and manage that. But I think from listening to you, Joanne, it's about this pragmatic approach, and it's about, right, we're faced with this, how do we then make sure that, how does it affect us going forward?
Definitely. And it's just about, gives you a sense of relief that actually, you know, one side of this is fine. I've managed one part.
Yeah.
Now I just need to move on to stage 2. So I think once you've initially got those eggs frozen and, you know, you can then take a breath and think, right, I have time now.
That's the first bit done.
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
You've done all you can right now.
Yeah.
You've kind of protected everything for the future, and it's
Yeah.
all there ready for when you are at a stage when it's appropriate for you to start thinking about
Definitely.
what your family looks like.
And when you were at that stage, or even before, what was community like for you in finding your people to connect with? Were there communities out there when you were in your early 20s that you could talk to that had similar conditions?
Of course, there's definitely a big MRKH charity, and there's so many like social media platforms where girls can connect with each other and find support systems within one another. But I think because I have a little sister who does have the same condition, like, we were each other's support system, and I had a very supportive partner. My husband was amazing. So I didn't actually feel the need to engage in these probably as much as what other girls do.
Yeah.
However, I definitely have connected with other girls on social media platforms who, especially since I've had Olivia, have messaged me, you know, with such happiness that they've seen another girl with the same condition
That's possible.
that has had her family. So I've had so many girls message me. It's really lovely. And they've even asked me, you know, what clinics did I use? And how was my egg retrieval? How did they do it? You know, there's so many questions that you can ask. Sometimes it's just nice to speak to another girl who has been through the exact same thing as you, that you're planning to do.
Yeah. And it can be okay.
Yeah, and you know it's possible. And you know that, yes, you are faced with this condition, but that doesn't stop you. You just need to find a different route. Not the route that you know, that is traditionally used for a lot of people, but for you, it's a different route, and you just have to navigate through it.
Definitely. And I would have loved, when I was 18, to have gone online or gone onto a podcast and seen another girl who did have a success story, because I would have thought, thank God, you know, it is possible. Whereas back when I was 18, you know, you didn't hear of young girls with MRKH having surrogate families.
No, you didn't.
They were obviously out there, but there just was no platform to ever speak to them or, you know, hear their story. So
no, and I think that's, and I want to come to you actually, Doctor, is just, when do women and people realise that they have this issue or condition? Are there any potential signs that they need to have further investigations?
Yeah, so the majority usually would get this condition diagnosed when they don't have a period, and usually by the age of 16, this is when it's triggered to have further investigations, whether hormonal or some imaging, and this is the usual presentation at this age group. Now others might have this diagnosed a little bit earlier because of some variations and types of MRKH, where there are other conditions related to the bones such as the spine or scoliosis, or sometimes hearing impairment could trigger doing more tests, but the majority would have it usually by the age of puberty.
Okay.
When they don't have a period.
Okay.
When patients find out that they do have this condition, what options are available to them?
One of the options is to explore more, to know about the process, whether fertility preservation, because even if they feel I'm not ready for a family now, they might do this for later, just like any other female who's keen to preserve her fertility. And the other option is to create embryos with a partner, or if using donor sperm, for future use as well. And to have the right screening, the right approach. When we say about screening, I mean the virology screening, genetic test. We call it donor-like screening, which we do it for all intended parents keen to go through the surrogacy journey. The other option, which is also there, is the uterine transplant, which is, it's an option. We have, of course, many pregnancies reported, and many of them were through MRKH, but we have to admit it's still not very well established option due to the nature of transplant and the use of immunotherapy, like any other organ transplant. So this is still a long journey to be offered to everyone versus surrogacy, which is an established pathway.
I was doing some research about this episode, and I read this incredible story of a woman that had a uterus transplant, and she went on to have two live births, and then she wanted a third, and I think the clinic were like, let's stay at 2. And then in America, when I went to ASRM last year, which is the American Society of Reproductive Medicine, it's quite a big thing in the States. Less so here at the minute, but certainly in the States. And it fascinates me, that area of medicine.
How do you feel about that, John? Is that something that would you consider I know this is like a really random question. I'm throwing it right at you, but what's your view on that? Is that something you think you'd consider?
I think hats off to these amazing women that are doing it, because it is such a big thing to put your body through. And I follow all these women online that are going through their pregnancy, and I'm so happy when they get their babies, because it is the hardest thing. I mean, what they have to go through is incredible. So hats off to them. But I don't think it's something that I could do at the minute. Maybe in 10 years' time, when these things are a lot more established in England. Obviously, we don't see a lot of it over here, but it is incredible. And the thought that they can carry a baby is absolutely amazing. I wish I could, because it is incredible. And
the science there to be able to do it, though, there's so much advancements in it, and like you said, it's going to continue to become not just an experimentary thing. It's going to become more mainstream.
Yeah, let's hope so.
Recently we had there is more research. I believe in the future it might be an option to still way to reach that stage, to grow an embryo artificially. This is all, the future, but now we have to find options more kind of established for couples and women going through this.
Yeah, for sure. So, Joanne, you and Matt turned to surrogacy, as we know, and you came out the other side with a gorgeous baby girl, and you always kind of knew that surrogacy was going to be your vehicle to build a family. But what did you know about surrogacy when you were on that path of trajectory to really and seriously research it?
I think I knew very much surface level about surrogacy. Another woman carrying our child, that would be all I had researched. And I knew nothing about the legislations and the laws and about how they would even retrieve my eggs. I had, it took a lot of research to finally get my head around it, because there is so much surrounding surrogacy that is just a minefield. But as soon as we had decided we was creating our embryos, we really looked into it. We found an amazing agency that we was happy with. When I went with Michael and Wes, I text them all the time and, had 50,000 questions, and I found an amazing clinic that I had full faith in. I was really happy with. So, it was only really once we actually started and we had decided that we were definitely going to start our egg retrieval that I really did look into the depths of it and really try and get my head around it. But
so then, if you're comfortable with going through that process, when you were on that journey and it was at the point of embryo transfer, and you're in that 2-week wait period, and I was living it with you, as was Wes, because it was really important for us, because it was like the first for us too. And I know how we felt once we knew. What was it like for you and Matt?
Do you know what? It was crazy, because our clinic had advised us, to set the scene, Matt and I were actually getting married 2 weeks after our embryo transfer. So we literally did everything all at once. Our head was all over the place. And our clinic said to us, I think you should maybe do the transfer after your wedding, because, if it's not positive, you're going to be really upset. It's going to ruin your day. And I said, no. I was like, if we're ready to go, we've got our heads around it. We're aware of the statistics, and we know that there's a chance that this pregnancy might not take. So we was definitely prepared. But I said to our surrogate, Karen, please can you not do a home pregnancy test before the wedding? Because if you don't phone me and tell me that you're pregnant, I'm going to assume on the day that you're not. I said, can we wait until the blood test, which we'd actually booked for the day after our wedding.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, it was this like grueling wait. And then I remember I just got home from Sainsbury's, I was packing away my shopping, and I got a phone call from Karen, and we'd chat most days anyway. And she said, oh, are you okay? Like, what are you up to? I said, oh, I'm just at home with Matt, just unpacking my shopping. And she said, oh, okay, because I've got something to tell you. I'm like, yeah. And she said, I know you told me not to do a home pregnancy test, but I couldn't help myself, and I've done it, and I'm pregnant, and, you know, I just had to tell you right now because I couldn't hold it in any longer. So this was about 3 days before our wedding, and oh my god, we were obviously over the moon, like ecstatic. And we actually didn't tell anybody, we kept it to ourselves, and it was lovely because on our wedding day I remember being sat at the top table and Matt whispering, there's our baby over there, because Karen was at the table. So it was absolutely amazing. It was only the 4 of us in the room that actually knew she was pregnant, Matt and I and Karen and her husband James. And yeah, I remember the morning afterwards, we got all our family together, like our immediate family, and we had printed pictures of the positive pregnancy test, and we said, we've got a gift for you all. And honestly, everyone was like completely over the moon. It was just the best
talk about
feeling.
your double whammy.
I know, literally done everything all at once. So yeah, it was absolutely perfect.
But I also think that goes to demonstrate that you were happy not to get that news before, and that's the way it turned out, but you were happy. But I also think that goes to demonstrate that because you knew about your condition so early, you just took a really pragmatic approach to the whole process all the way through, because that's how you are.
The way I sort of always thought about it was, you know, women that are trying for a baby, they try and they do pregnancy tests that aren't positive. And this to me was just me trying for my baby, and this one might not be a positive test, but
just
hopefully
like
the next
anyone
one
else.
is.
Yeah.
So I tried to do it as if I was just like every other girl, and this was just my first attempt at trying for a baby. But obviously you're hoping and praying that it's the only attempt. You're hoping that you're going to get that positive result. But, you know, you have to be prepared for the highs and the lows with everything. And yeah, we were just so fortunate that on our first transfer that we did get a positive result.
And how was the pregnancy?
Was my next question.
Well, you can just give it a rest a little minute and let me get some questions in, please. There's 2 presenters on this one, you know. I just to remind you of
All right,
that.
I'm getting excited. Go on, ask the question.
Yeah, tell us about the pregnancy and how involved were you in the pregnancy? How did it feel?
I mean, Karen would say it was a hard 9 months, but she was an amazing surrogate. I mean, she loved being pregnant anyway. She enjoyed both of her pregnancies with her 2 previous children, and she felt this pregnancy was the exact same. She would send me like multiple videos every day of little Olivia moving inside, and, you know, we'd meet up like maybe once or twice a week. We'd feel the baby move. My husband would always feel the baby move. So we were as involved in this pregnancy as you possibly can be. Of course, it wasn't me carrying. And of course, you know, I had some days when I went round there and I felt her bump moving and it was incredible. And I had some days where I went home and I felt sad that it wasn't me feeling that, you know.
Yeah.
But you have the highs and the lows with everything. And as much as we could, like, we thoroughly enjoyed the 9 months. And Karen was an absolutely amazing surrogate. She never once complained. She barely asked us for anything. She just got on with everything, you know. And even in the birth, I mean, she was like a hero in our hospital. As soon as Karen walked through the door, she was a little celebrity, because everybody was just so amazed. We'd never really had many surrogate pregnancies at our hospital, and everyone was just so amazed that someone would do this for another human. Like, they just couldn't get their heads around it. So Olivia was the most anticipated baby in the world, and as soon as she walked through the door, everyone came in to meet her. Everyone came in to say to Karen what an amazing woman she is, and she would say, she still says to this day, it's the best thing she's ever done. So,
and let's put this into context as well. You work at the hospital where Karen gave birth, so the whole hospital was behind you because you worked there.
Definitely. And it's funny because I remember before all this started, I thought, how am I going to explain to people, you know, that we're having a baby in a month's time and yet I'm not pregnant? You know, I was kind of nervous about telling people that I was having a surrogate pregnancy. But oh my God, it is met with just like amazement. People are just in awe of this pregnancy you're having, and they've got so many positive questions, you know. I just loved telling people in the end that we was having this surrogate pregnancy because it was so celebrated by everyone.
How lovely.
And that's exactly how it should be.
Yeah.
You know, it's like...
Did you tell people later than what people in a regular pregnancy would, or did you...
Oh, absolutely not, Mike. I was so excited. I think I told people earlier than what I should have. I was just so excited that I couldn't keep it in any longer. So I think everybody knew.
Good.
But no, we did the whole 12-week wait. But after that, I was like, you know, telling everyone that would listen. So,
perfect.
Celebrating it.
Love it. And Karen is an absolute hero, let's be really clear.
She is a true hero.
An absolute one. You mentioned highs and lows. For the listener, it'd probably be quite comforting potentially to predict some of those highs and lows. Was there anything that you're only comfortable talking about that was particularly hard for you, that for anyone that is listening, you can offer some reassurances around how you may feel at that point? Was there anything that you and Matt were at one point going, oh my God, this is hard?
Do you know, I think my biggest worry throughout, Matt would agree with this, I was really worried that, you know, would I bond with Olivia? More importantly, would Olivia bond with me? So that was my biggest stress. And I think this come into play mainly around 7-8 months. I just had this overwhelming panic that for some reason my baby wasn't going to love me. I don't know what it was that come over me. And I just said to Matt, like, I think maybe once Karen has given birth to Olivia, maybe we should, you know, close our house, lock ourselves in, have 2 weeks of just me, the baby and Matt, and yeah, just spend like time focusing on that bond. And Matt was completely supportive of that. He said, Joanne, if Karen gives birth and you want to go home and lock the doors, absolutely fine. Like, nobody has to come around. This is our time. But I remember in the hospital when Karen first gave birth and I was handed the baby straight away, and she went skin to skin with me and skin to skin with Matt. And Matt said to me, should we lock our door? Should we not let anyone in? And I was like, absolutely not. I want to show this baby off to everyone. Like, tell everyone they're welcome round, because that sense of love you just instantly feel, it's just like undescribable. So there was no way I was locking the doors. Everybody come round to meet her, and
you were screaming from the rooftops.
Absolutely. So yeah, there was never a worry about that. So for anyone out there who is worried, like, try not to focus too much on that, because once this baby's handed to you, it's just an incredible feeling. And yeah, the bond with both of us, it's amazing. I mean, some people would say she's too bonded to me now. She's a complete mummy's girl. So yeah, that would probably be my lows throughout, was probably me worrying about that. But you know, it wasn't something I should have ever worried about, and I will never worry about that if ever we go through this journey again.
And I think that's quite common with people going through surrogacy as well, though, you know, in terms of if there isn't a genetic link, or if they haven't been able to carry, then they have that anxiety around whether they are going to bond. I know that certainly both you and I dealt with it, and we hear it commonly through intended parents that are going through surrogacy, that they have this worry. But I think what happens, I think in 99.999% is exactly what happened to you, is that as soon as you have that connection with your child and that contact, that intimate contact, it's irrelevant.
It just goes out the window.
You forget it really quickly, don't you? It's like those thoughts that you had where you were anxious about it. It's amazing how quickly it's all of a sudden gone.
And it's a bit like the saying, like, the harder the climb, the better the view. Like, the harder your journey to get there, when you finally get it, oh my God, like, it was just incredible. So that was the high. That moment when when the baby's handed to you, it's just like everything you've been through is worth it, isn't it? Like, you guys will know, everything you've gone through is completely worth it.
Amazing. Oh, snotty nose. Sorry, everyone.
Dr. Ali, what piece of advice from a clinical point of view would you give to any couple or single person who are dealing with MRKH? What would be your advice to them?
I would advise to try to be in the right place to have more information and start your journey early. Not necessary to start your family early, but start preparing, knowing more about your ovarian reserve. This is not related to MRKH, but if someone has an ovarian reserve a little bit on the lower side, might consider to start their journey early, like the advice to any other woman. And also, as we mentioned before, doing the right screening, the right consents to be in place. And it's something that can be done. And we heard a very successful and happy story. And this is for the majority the same case when they start their journey early. Because when you do the right preparation and doing it step by step, not to think too much about how would I feel. There is support from family, from the clinic, counseling, the surrogacy agency. All this works together to make it a smooth and straightforward, hopefully, journey.
But I think it's about understanding your options early and allowing you to then understand what that plan is and putting a plan together. Joanne, what would be your advice to someone out there listening who might be at a really early stages, might have just been given that information or might not really kind of understand what that pathway looks like?
Yeah, try not to let it be all consuming. Try and just take a step back and think, this is something I've got, but there are solutions out there, there's ways around this. And because if I could go back and talk to my 17-year-old self, I'd say, just relax, put it to the back of your mind, enjoy yourself, forget about this for now, because the time will come when you're going to have to start all this process.
You are living proof that this is absolutely possible. You know, you can achieve your family building aspirations. You can, you know, just listening to you talk about when you first connected to your daughter, that's just priceless. And that just proves that it's absolutely possible.
And I think, you know, just like Dr. Ali said, and like what you said, choose that team really wisely around you that's going to support you through it. Whether that's your family, your surrogate, your agency, your doctor, the clinic, all of the healthcare professionals around you. Surrogacy, as we know, can be that minefield. But if you pick your team wisely, that understand MRKH and understand surrogacy, then everything's going to be okay. And having that conversation with your former 16-year-old self, which I think is a really good way to reflect, to actually say, do you know what? You're going to be fine. Being pragmatic about what the future holds is most definitely how you've managed your and Matt's journey, and look what you've got at the end of it. Thank you so much, the pair of you,
thank you
for coming in today.
It's really good to understand the clinical side. So if the listener wants to really understand the practical clinical side, but also the reality and the emotional side of it as well, because both sides are a key component of a successful journey, but hearing stories from both I think is really important. So thank you for sharing. We really appreciate it. For
sure. And again, anyone that is listening that would like to reach out for more information, then you can do that by emailing us at contact@mysurrogacyjourney.com, and we can put you in touch with all of the necessary healthcare professionals that can help you. So if you've been touched by this episode, please get in touch. Wow, I didn't expect to be blarting, but that
do people know what blarting is? Is that
blarting? Listener, do you know what blarting is?
I think that's a Midlands thing.
It's a crying
but
thing.
I think it was a bit more emotional than I was expecting it to be, but actually a really lovely feeling, because there was so much that came out of it. Mm-hmm. And I think the personal story is really relevant and really important.
I agree. And hopefully for you, listener, if this was an episode for you or for a friend or someone else that you wanted to listen to or signpost to, you'll see that with the right preparation and the right support, there is a happy ending. MRKH isn't a diagnosis that you will never have a family.
No, but I think the message that came across loud and clear for me is about knowing it's possible, doing your prep, getting yourself ready, and kind of having everything done so that when you are ready to start manoeuvring on that family building journey, everything's in place.
Yeah. Absolutely.
Anyway, don't forget, if you need your podcast fix, we're back every Monday, proudly supported by Manchester Fertility, the UK's leading specialist offering ICSI, IUI and IVF treatments, awarded Best Fertility Clinic in the Northwest of England.
If you want to find out more about My Surrogacy Journey, then please head over to mysurrogacyjourney.com or find us on Instagram, official My Surrogacy Journey.
If you like this episode, then please subscribe to our series, and we will have another episode coming out weekly.
Thank you for listening. We have been your My Surrogacy Journey podcast hosts. Goodbye.
Goodbye.